The house on Enxing Avenue. The first house I ever lived in, my first memory in it, I was 6 months old and I was sitting inside a crib. And I had this dream. It was kind of like a World of Warcraft or a Dungeons and Dragons type dream. And I had this sword and I was fighting all these monsters. And I remember I was on the street in front of the house we lived at. And as soon as I got rid of all those monsters, I knew I was going to have some kind of positive effect on my life. I remember laying in that crib and thinking that I was going to have some kind of positive effect on the world. Now, my memories after that, they become more vivid, and I start remembering more a little bit after my 8th birthday. I remember a little bit after, well, a little bit before my brother died. We would have these conversations, and he told me he doesn't remember much before his 9th birthday, so we start remembering things a little later. When I was about 8 years old is definitely when I start remembering more stuff that happened. And the first house we lived in, it was smaller than the other one. It had 3 bedrooms. One of them was my mom's room. One of them was my brother's room. And the other one was my dad's room. My parents never slept together ever since I was born. They had never slept together or slept in the same room. And there was kind of this image that me and my brother shared a room because there was a bunk bed in there. But mostly that bunk bed was for when he had friends stay over. And I knew that that definitely couldn't have been our room because after a certain time period, when I would have had to be in bed anyway, she told me not to be in that room because that was the room he'd watch shows on the TV that were inappropriate. So I wasn't even allowed to be in there at night. Now, my dad had a room, a little room he slept in. I remember kind of when he wasn't in there, hanging out in there and like listening to cassette tapes and listening to music because that was kind of where I got away during the day. And I kind of liked that room. But I knew once 11 o'clock came around, I had to be out of that room. So that led me to sleep with my mother until I was 11 years old. It was really the only room I had to go into. And whenever she went to bed, that's when I went to bed. And whenever she woke up, that's when I woke up. Bedtime was around 11 when she normally went to bed. And I'd lay in there while she was watching like The Tonight Show and, shows like that. So I never had a room growing up. I just always slept next to my mother. It was kind of a shared room, I guess. I'd play video games in that room. When friends did come over, that'd be the room we played video games with. But after a certain amount of time, my friends just didn't come around anymore. And I've had that happen a lot in my life where I'll have friends for a few months. I'll be really excited to hang out. And next thing I know, they don't want shit to do with me. I mean, people think I isolate from people, but I think, people isolate from me. And one way that I know this is I've had people tell me, why do I turn my back on my friends? Why do I not talk to my friends? I recently got a new phone and I had to change my phone number. And I had a bunch of friends at the time. I sent it out to everyone, my new phone number. Not one person, actually only one person responded. And I still keep in contact with this person, but no one bothered to respond. So I feel like I was trying to reach out to people and people were getting away from me. But I'm isolated, so I'm perfectly fine with this in the fantasy world inside my head, which the fantasy world inside my head is something I'm definitely going to get into a lot more on further videos. That first house, though, we moved into this other house when I was 11 years old now. This house, it was a lot bigger than the other house, and it didn't fit right. What I'm realizing is it didn't fit right in the neighborhood because it was definitely probably the richest part of West Carrollton. But even that house, compared to all the other ones, was way, way bigger. And it was built on what I was told was the only open lot up there. But looking back, I'm like, why was that? People did not want us building on that property. It was pretty apparent that neighbors and people within the city, even the official government within the city, didn't want anyone building there. I don't know if this had something to do with the fact that there was a giant rock towards the street. And They said it was okay to keep that, but I don't think we were supposed to build up there. And, both of them build the biggest damn house you've ever seen. I went from having to sleep with my mom because I didn't have my own bedroom to this 4-bedroom house. And that's when I finally I had my own room. And I started sleeping in that one. And I used to always think, I'd be afraid to sleep alone. But I completely went into that and just slept. It was because I was never given a chance with my own room. So about 11 years old, I started sleeping, on my own. And when we got to that house, that's where everything it just got really dark. I remember we had this dog. And one of the first time me and my mom brought the dog home, and my dad was not happy about that. I remember the dog urinating on the carpet. My dad got extremely aggressive. He got so aggressive, my mother was crying. And that's when my mother started taking it out on me, and that's what happened. I think she was scared of him when he got angry, so she would bow and do whatever the fuck he told her, and to a brainwashing extent because she was afraid of him. And she was so afraid of upsetting him that she would take it out on me. She showed some really dark sides to me. She would, shit like... some of the things she said to me and degraded me like I was garbage. You better eat those fruit snacks or I'm going to shove them down your throat. It's funny because the last time I saw my aunts, they're going on about how she would, take the shirt off her back for anyone. You better eat those gummies or I'll shove them down your throat. Sounds like someone would take the shirt off the back, for anyone when you're both just scared. Because this whole family's got to know shit. This whole family has to know some fucking secrets. And that's one of the last things TJ told me before he died. Was that this family's really good at hiding secrets. I mean, when we had family dinners at the house and I was hiding in my room or hiding in the basement, everyone had to see that I was not eating like a proper person. And that I would go hide in the basement from my cousins, my aunts, my grandma, my grandpa. Hiding from everyone. And the whole family wants to fucking blame me. I'm the goddamn scapegoat in this family. I think everyone knows some fucking shit and they're just trying to cover up by blaming me. Things, and even at the time, I remember talking to my brother about a lot of the stuff my dad was doing, and just like everyone else, he'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? And that's because he hid a lot of stuff and saved it for when no one else was around. Now, in about 2004, my brother moved off to Quincy, Illinois. My parents were very upset about this. They thought none of their children should ever leave mommy and daddy. So there was a good few years where I was alone with them. And these were pretty bad years because they knew I wasn't able to communicate with them as much. Because one of the last times me and TJ went to King's Island by ourselves, he called us up and he just starts degrading the shit out of me. It had something to do with Hera, TJ's dog. He starts just degrading the shit out of me. And I had to hang up on him. Eventually he talked to my brother, but we couldn't even go out and be alone and have brother time because he would try to interrupt us. And the reason he didn't like that is because we were alone to talk. And that is sure as hell what we did in the last few years. But during this earlier time period, he came back in 2007, but I didn't really have him around. And a lot of stuff happened, in between that time. And the reason I think my brother actually got divorced is, I remember on the way home from work, because he lived in Quincy, he had an hour drive home, and my dad basically made it mandatory that he had to talk to him on the phone the whole time he was driving home from work, and that's when they'd spend time together. And his wife wanted to stay in Quincy, and I don't even think TJ had a problem spending time in Quincy. But my parents were so, urgeful to get him back here because little boys should stay skinny and should be around their parents and never leave them, that they brainwashed him into coming back, and his wife didn't want to come back, so that's when the divorce happened. Now, when he first came back in 2007, he had this apartment over by the Dayton Mall, and everything was really cool there. Some cool times had there. In 2009, he got his own house in Miamisburg. And that is when things started shifting. That is when dark stuff started happening. Because just a couple months after moving in, my brother would start saying things about our father. The exact same things I had been telling him. And he was at the point where he was finally realizing it. My father would find any reason, even up until his death, to make sure he was in that house every day. And I went over to my brother's house the day I was talking to my parents at the time. And they're like, how did this happen? Why did this happen? I'll tell you why the fuck this happened. Was because he came over there every day while my brother was at work and searched through his shit and then questioned him about it. A 38-year-old man and the father is going in there, looking through his shit, and then guilting him over every goddamn thing. Making sure he didn't have any alcohol in that house. He flat out told me the only reason he drank was because it was the only way he could cope with you. I think something happened the first 7 years that kept him more brainwashed to my dad. Because at this point, about the first time I went to the ward, around that time, and I was in therapy, and I kept talking to my therapist about how I was going to do some stuff to my dad. When my therapist had to call him, and basically that's what got me over into the block apartment. He knew I wasn't going to put up with his shit anymore. He knew I was done. So with him not having as much power over me, he took it over to my brother. And what they would do is I'd be at my parents alone, and they'd say all kinds of shit TJ said about me, all kinds of bullshit he was apparently doing, and I know that he wasn't doing. And then when it would just be my parents and him, my parents would tell my brother all kinds of shit about me. They were trying to get us to fight with each other. They were trying to get us to be against each other, because if we were on good terms and we're able to discuss stuff, we can exchange ideas. I remember my father grounded my brother from his car when my brother was 38 years old. He died when he was 39, so he was 37 or 38, but he grounded from his car. And he told me that TJ wanted to give him the keys. Like, here, please take it so I won't go and drive and buy alcohol. And my dad was basically a chauffeur at this point. I think my dad manipulated him, like, you better give him these keys. And he gave him some kind of discussion to manipulate him. So he basically grounded my brother from my car when my brother was 30. And people always say, like, I'm the fucking bad, dysfunctional one in the family, when me and my brother both went through stuff where we were made to be the enemy. We were made to be destructive, I'm so tired of taking care of you and TJ. Yet anytime we tried to get away, he would manipulate the situation and scare us and do anything to go into his house and go through his shit. I was always fucking appalled at this, and I flat out told my mom and my dad that I'm appalled at what the fuck you're doing over there. And then them changing, oh no, he begs us to do this stuff. He ain't begging you to do anything. He didn't. Someone once told me, this is the best way regarding my brother's death. My brother wanted out. And he did it the best way he knew, and that was to drink himself to death. He's a fucking legend, in my opinion. because he took a sacrifice to get away from him. Because now I can actually get away. I couldn't have gotten away before because everyone else, what the fuck's wrong with, Tim? Why is he doing this? We don't have this problem with TJ. I feel my brother, his death, he didn't die for anything. And you died, TJ, to get me the fuck away from them. I still live in fear, though. I tried to get down to Tennessee to get away from this. I'd want to go up to fucking Alaska still right now. I have this fascination with Alaska, and there's a few reasons here. I like how it's part of the United States, but it's not actually connected to the fucking United States. It touches this much better nation called Canada, a roof. The roof. The only way Alaska could be better is if it succeeded from America, because Alaska, you're better than that. You could be your own country, and Alaska could be the greatest goddamn country on the planet. But, I wanted to get away from it. And I feel like through his, death, he didn't die for anything. I can't believe he didn't die for nothing. And then, I think that's really, that's where that segment ends right there. The house on Enxing Avenue. Alright. Next segment here. So this is my TV show. This is the Timothy Manson show. Where there's not no fucking producers or camera guy or Hollywood sellout bullshit. It's just me with the camera. There are times I'll let Tiki film me, but she flat out has my permission. I give her permission to film me. I'm going to go get some water, and we'll have this discussion here in a little bit. The next story here is they videotape little children against their will. We might be talking in, the media about what, kids are doing to other kids. Well, yeah, whatever. That's that's definitely a concern. But my concern is what the adults within the establishment are doing to the kids. I didn't want to be on video camera. I said I didn't want to be on video camera. But that school at 9 years old put a video camera on me and told me we're making videos. And as I said, before, we're making videos. People wonder how I can just be out here being on YouTube like this and not being afraid. And the reason was, they prepared me for that. I didn't want to be on video camera, and they made me be on video camera. And they went back to the whole class and showed all these videos. They showed everyone's videos. I was the last one to be filmed. They were showing all these videos. And when it got to mine, she cut the whole goddamn feed off. And someone even said, why'd you cut that off? Why are you showing Tim's? That's when she started screaming like a psychotic maniac at all these 9 and 10-year-old kids. A woman that, I don't know, she was in her 20s or her 30s, screaming at all these. And I'm like, this is the kind of people we have educate our children. Them still saying shit like, oh, kids are going to be kids. No. I'll tell you what, as a 34-year-old man, I fucking hate adults. He's saying, not remembering what the fuck it's like to be a child. Thinking that just because you're older, you know every goddamn thing. And I'm even guilty of that, in the past when I've said, oh, I'm smarter than that, person, because I've been around longer. And that's bullshit. Anyone can come up of any age and, tell someone how the fuck it is. And there was this dominance because they were, older. And I remember being in high school, and there was a fight going on. The teacher in my class at the time did not just intervene. She jumped over other students and trampled over other students to watch the fight. There was no attempt to break it up. They were egging kids on to fight with each other and scapegoat the kids. And then there was the one time they put me in a mock Holocaust. We were learning about the Holocaust. So the way they did this was myself and 3 other students, out of nowhere, there was no even warning for this. The teacher started degrading all 4 of us. So go figure, the one black kid in the class, the African kid, was one of the kids that were picked for this. I remember that was actually one of the nicest people to me in that class, too. I hung out with them outside of school. A couple times we used to play, video games and stuff, Super Nintendo, Mortal Kombat and shit like that. You go figure, they picked the one African kid in the class. I don't remember the other 2 were, but she just told people to throw shit at us and made it, we couldn't even write with pens. They gave us crayons and, all these people were just fucking laughing away, Once again, it's not easy to humiliate me because I've already been humiliated like fucking trash at the Moraine landfill. She made us all leave the classroom, and then she had this talk with us outside. Oh, this is a mock Holocaust. We're going to learn about the Holocaust. And she explained it to everyone, but I don't think that was a proper way to go about this and the way we educate kids. Everyone learns different. To force kids into this jail-like environment and, do stuff like this, because I know shit happened at that school. Very disturbing shit happened there. I think one of the things was by each school, in like elementary, middle school, high school, the whole goal was to have me dead by the time I got out of elementary. That's what that was about in 6th grade. That fucking, this mock Holocaust we're going to use. Tim's going to kill himself, or he's going to die at the hands of, who he's living with. He's not going to make it past 6th grade, so here I am in middle school, and things get way fucking worse. And at the time, it was 6th, 7th, and 8th, 6th, 7th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. That went to the middle school, but I never made it to 9th grade, because that was the first year that they did the transition from 9th. The high school was gonna be 9th through 12th grade. It was 10th through 12th, but they're going to make it, 9 through 12. So when I was in 8th grade, I never actually got to be the highest grade at the middle school because they changed it over. And I think that was another thing that they didn't want me being one of the oldest people in there. They didn't want me making it that far and maybe having that seniority over other, classes. So they immediately changed it. The reason that school's high school will change from 10 to 12, from 9 to 12 was because of me, and I'll let them know that. They knew right then they didn't want me at the tallest grade within the middle school, so they changed it so I would automatically go from middle class to lower class. Now I'm very dominant. There's a lot of domination over me. There's a lot of groups. I'm one of the youngest people in here. So the whole thing was to have me dead by the end of junior high. Well, this transition is what we're going to kill Tim with. And then, they're like, well, he'll be dead by, the end of 12th grade. So there was this whole thing. And eventually, I think the staff by 12th grade was definitely worn out of trying to kill me off. And, I think they eventually just realized they couldn't fucking do it. He'll be dead by the time he's out of high school. He'll be dead. And now here I am, 34 years. This is who I am at 34. And I get confident about it, and I look a little bit back, and I'm like, damn, Tim, you did good. You showed them up. You were supposed to be dead, what? Okay, the ages between 18 and 34, so 28 would be 10. To 34 would be 6. I was supposed to be dead 16 years ago, and people are still probably like, oh, what's this fucking guy still doing? I still don't get it. Like, even still recently, I'll see people in West Carolina, and they just look at me like, you piece of shit. Like I'm still the fucking worst goddamn problem you ever had. Some people still believe this whole scapegoat thing that this town set up against me. One of the last fucking times I went into that town, I went and saw what to this day I would consider a very good friend. And, even I haven't talked to him in a while, but he was the best goddamn friend I ever had in that town, and we didn't really talk much in high school. We didn't talk, much till more recently, and this is someone I was comfortable being around. Any other time I'm in that town, there are people I'm like, it's like, you got a lot of fucking nerve. Still sit here at 34 years old and try to laugh me out of this town. And that's the thing. I've done travels all over this town. West Side, Gettysburg, 3rd and Salem. I've been up North Main, North Dixie, West 3rd, Beaver Creek, Fairborn. I've been everywhere. There was one night where I ended up from Kettering to Waynesville, and Waynesville took me into Springboro. And I had this night where my travels went into Butler County. They actually almost got to Cincinnati, because I remember I was in Franklin, and that would take me to somewhere in Middletown. Then that person needed to go back to Franklin. Then was in Franklin, someone in like Liberty Township. And then that person went to Hamilton. And after that, I was in Fairfield. And at the end of the night, I ended up somewhere in Cincinnati near 275. I kind of know Cincinnati, but I know Dayton a lot more. But I've met a lot of good people out there. A lot of people that have welcomed me into this town. And have been really gentle and kind and understanding, and they've helped me out, and they've helped me to grow what my life is now, having my own place again, and having independence, and this time away from my parents. Going out on my travels is completely, when I first started this channel, I was all like, fuck Dayton, There were things I liked about Dayton, but I was definitely, fuck Dayton. Dayton's a great fucking town, and I think Dayton's an exciting town. There's so many historical, like one of my favorite places to do travels is on the west side. There is so much historical nature to that part of town. There's this part where you're driving down Route 4 and you can just see into Dayton. There's so many high places, like even Lookout Point, which is like, there's so many places like Lookout Point to look out at Dayton. I think Dayton's a neat city, and I've had some exciting times out there, and a lot of these people have restored my faith in this town, and they've helped me out. And I kind of think like people in one certain suburb of Dayton wanting to scapegoat me. I have no problem being around people in other parts of this town. I go in that small little town that a lot of people just can't seem to find their way out of. And they just want to sit there and look at me a certain way, like, how dare you come back here? Well, for one, I can't really control where travels go. I could pick someone up, there was one I had where I picked someone up, in the Oregon district. And this travel literally had to go by my parents' house because it was over in this neighborhood off of Peach Orchard in Miamisburg. It's one apartment complex. But I remember the directions were trying to tell me to go up this one road, and I'm like, no, I'm going to have to obviously take Elm Street to Wilson Park and over and turn left on Heineken. The person asked me why I wasn't following the directions, and I had to very vaguely tell them there's a house I have to avoid over here. Definitely if you don't know where you're going until, you drop them off. So, I can't just avoid certain parts because I never know where I'm going to end up. And I'm not just going to leave town right away because someone wants to tell me where my travels can be. But, I get a little negative sometimes, try to put some more positive things there. But, a lot of people in this town have made me feel welcomed. And I can imagine a lot of people in town see me now like, who's this new guy in town? Never seen this guy before, when I'm in the Oregon district. Who the hell's this guy? Some new guy to town, never seen this guy around. I've been here for 34 years. I know a lot about this town. I know the roads of this town. I know how to help people in this town. And that's what I like doing. They always ask me, what do I want to do with my life? This is what I want to do with my life. I want to help people out and get them around because it's something I already love doing, and that's driving. Being in a car and listening to music, especially when I go on car rides on my own. I like a lot of back road driving, like I mentioned in videos. The Preble County area, I love being out in Preble County. I love the Germantown area. Like, listening to music really loud and driving is the most therapeutic thing on the planet to me. I love doing that. And, meeting interesting people and interesting conversations. And I'm very excited about where things are going to go in my life now. This is my favorite apartment I've ever lived in. I don't like big places. I was ashamed at that house that we lived in. That house ashames me. That's not who I am, living at the top of this hill and then still having nerve to hear complaining about how poor we are. Now we're the poorest people in the neighborhood and just being fed a bunch of bullshit. And that's not who I am. Is to flash money around like that. I mean, I do have a pretty nice car. But for the fact that I do travels, that's one thing I feel is necessary. I definitely, got to keep something good for that. But I feel so much more comfortable in this house, this apartment, is because it is small. Even like, I can stand up on I don't have to get on my tiptoes to touch this. I like this, And not living in, that area. I don't feel that area is me, because that whole thing I like about over here is the houses aren't uniform. They're just sporadic all over the place. It's like little, small, simple houses. It's less complicated. We've had people be more embracing in this neighborhood than any other neighborhood in this town. You got that kind of area that everything's really uniform. Someone will call the cops on you if your lawn is too high, or all these houses are all uniform. And everyone walks out of the house at the same time and drives off to work at the same time. You can watch it like it's systematically. You can watch it. It's like a rotating process. How when you see that happen. And I don't think that's me. And there's a lot of, distortion. People thought I was a rich, spoiled kid. And it doesn't take, I don't have to, it's nice to have a few, nice things. Like we got this laptop now. I like making videos on this because it appears that there's no time restraint on this one, as it says like 33 minutes right now. So you're going to see some pretty long videos out of me. And I can really let my mind go, and it's going to go into so many different topics. And yeah, it's definitely going to a lot of different topics right now, but I feel the media lies about certain parts of town because it wants to scapegoat certain parts of town, when I can tell you that people take care of each other over here. And people look out for each other, and people are inviting. And things I haven't gotten out of other parts of this town, or, other parts of other towns. But I think That's it for tonight, and I will chat at you all later.